And in this video, I'll reveal 5 strategies so that you can stop guessing, start scaling, and turning views into lasting influence. Now, 99% of creators get this first point wrong. They focus on doing a different trend every couple of weeks, adding in the most popular songs or soundtracks, working hard to create content that doesn't match their brand or expertise, only to burn themselves out faster. Here's why that tactic rarely works. Now imagine that you wanted to get good at playing a musical instrument, but you decided to change the instrument every week. So week 1 is the piano, week 2 is the guitar, week 3 it's the flute, and then week 4 it's the drums. Well, you'd never get good at playing any of them. That's what chasing trends is like. Instead, you want to learn how to use formats. A trend is dead within a month. Audience interest just fades away. But a format is a repeatable structure that can last for years, and you can apply it to any topic or niche to create the momentum that makes you feel unstoppable. So to give you an example, we worked with the leather expert Tanner Leatherstein, who wanted to get more eyes on his business. But his approach was to just create ads, and none of his content was breaking through, and he was stuck at only 2,000 followers. That's why we suggested he focus on what became now the famous Is It Worth It format. Leveraging this format, he generated over 250 million views and amassed an audience of 2.5 million followers across his social media channels. So how can you find a format that works for you? Well, there are 2 things you should consider when selecting a format. Number 1, start with the resources that you have. If you only have a phone in your pocket, you can start there. There is a format that matches every level of resource that you have available to you. Don't feel the pressure that you need to hire a fancy camera crew or big team. And number 2, what really excites you? You need to find a format that you really connect with, that feels authentic to who you are. Something that you wake up every morning, you're like, I want to create that piece of content. This should be a format that you can stick with for months, for years. Now let's talk about what really makes a great format repeatable. Story structure. During my time in Hollywood, I discovered every scriptwriter and director over the past 100 years has used the same format, the 3-act structure. Now this is designed to grab the audience's attention and keep it to the end. This is the same structure that's used in Lord of the Rings, Jaws, Casablanca, and every Marvel movie ever made. There's a hook, tension, and a payoff. In social media content, you've only got 3 seconds to grab the audience and make them decide whether they're gonna stick around to watch the rest of the video. Now, once you've achieved this, then you need to build up tension as they wait for you to deliver on the payoff of your hook. Let's look at how Hunter Prosper leverages the Stories from Stranger format to achieve this. He hooks the audience by asking someone a question like,
what's the most painful thing you've been told?
Now the purpose of the hook is to immediately grab the audience's attention and make them stay for that vital first 3 seconds. Next, Hunter lets the interviewee set up the scene of the story, which builds tension as the audience waits to find the outcome.
When I was 12, my dad had a heart attack when we were eating dinner one night.
Now, I know this sounds really simple, but it's really just that. Hook people with a compelling question or idea, build tension as they wait for the outcome. Then give them the payoff. To use this structure yourself, you need to understand what makes an audience curious enough to keep watching. There are 3 types of curiosity. The first is diversive. Are you promising novelty and some form of stimulation? Like Tanner does with all those sweet, crisp sound effects in all of his videos. The second is epistemic. Are you offering your viewers new information? Like Tanner does when he breaks down his findings after pulling apart a leather product.
As we can see, this is all fabric, not suede.
And finally, empathic. Are you connecting with people by offering your genuine thoughts and feelings throughout the video? Like Tanner does when he shares his honest, authentic opinions on whether the product is truly worth it.
In total, $130 for the materials and labor. I paid $450. Doesn't sound like a bad deal.
Now, once you've got their attention, your job is to hold it. Now think of this part as stretching a rubber band. Each new piece of information builds tension. Their curiosity grows because they know the answer is coming. But if you stretch it too far, stalling too long, overhyping, or adding fluff, then the band snaps and they click away. Finally, deliver the payoff. You've earned their attention. Now close the loop with what you promised. Now, the real challenge comes next. Analyzing exactly why and how your selected format works so that you can know how to execute it properly. At Hookpoint, we begin by identifying a format that's already working for another creator. Then we run it through the GSB analysis, Hookpoint's proprietary system. We apply it to a format by breaking down the creator's channel to see why it's performing, and more importantly, when it doesn't, why it falls flat. Then we leverage those insights to create content for our clients' channels. Once we've built up enough videos with consistent wins, then we switch the GSB lens onto our own content and categorize it into gold, significantly above average performance, silver, average performance, and bronze, underperformers or flops. By comparing content across those levels, you start to see the patterns, what variables consistently drive attention, and which ones fall flat. So to use this for yourself, you want to find multiple creators who are making the format that you want to remix and make your own. Then take notes on their best performing videos. Now we suggest identifying at least 10 pieces of gold content and 10 pieces of bronze. When you've identified them, place them in a spreadsheet next to each other and watch through the gold video content first. And write down every theory for why you think those videos perform well. Then what you do is you check a bronze performing video to see if that same element appears there too. If it does, then you know it's not what's driving success. For example, when watching a Dr. Julie Smith video using a visual metaphor format, I might suggest the backdrop is something that is getting her the views. If I were to find that same backdrop in the bronze video, then we can be certain that that is not the thing that's driving performance upwards or downwards. Now you have a system to understand why a format works, allowing you to succeed with that format again and again and again. You're no longer gambling, you are now engineering your growth. But if you don't get this next part right, you're potentially alienating up to 70% of your audience. That's why presentation and delivery is essential to make content succeed. Here at Hookpoint, we use what we call the communication algorithm, and it's based upon 1.5 million communication assessments done worldwide. And what it does is it turns communication into math. It translates psychology and language into an actual strategy that you can use. Let me show you an example. Pixar doesn't just make brilliant movies. They've actually built an emotional engine around the communication algorithm. Let me show you what I mean. Each character represented one of the 6 ways that people perceive the world. Joy, she represents fun, 20% of the population. She's all the energy, the optimism, she lights up the room. Sadness represents feeling, 30% of the population. She brings the emotional depth, the connection and care. Fear represents facts, 25% of the population. He offers risk, logic, and analytical thinking. Disgust represents values, 10% of the population. Social norms, ethics, personal standards. And then there's Riley's imaginary friend, Bing Bong, who represents imagination, 10% of the population. Last but not least, anger represents action, 5% of the population, goal-driven, decisive, pushing for results. Most creators make their content through their own lens, values, data, or otherwise, and that's natural, but it alienates much of the audience. And as you can see, there are 6 core ways that people will connect with you and your brand. Yet, most creators only tap into one, which means their message resonates with some while shutting out the rest. And the cost is high. Lost shareability, relevance, and long-term growth. Because for content to truly scale, it has to speak across all 6 styles, not just one. The final takeaway is the most crucial and maybe the most difficult to get right. And it all comes from focusing on the foundation your content is built upon. You see, too many people get stuck in a loop of chasing the algorithm and trends, hustling to post as much as possible until they burn out. Now, this part no one talks about. It's not your intelligence or creativity that's holding you back, it's usually your mindset. Fear, insecurity, overwhelm. Those internal blockers don't go away with more tactics. They require alignment. Too many creators quit right before they hit the breakthrough. Now, it reminds me of a great story from the book Think and Grow Rich. A man spends months digging for gold, convinced that he's on the right track. But when he doesn't see results fast enough, doubt starts to creep in. He sells his equipment, he sells his land to someone else who just brings in an engineer. And that engineer studies the ground and realizes the man had stopped digging just 3 feet away from the richest gold vein in the mine. That's how most people treat content. They put in the work, try a few posts, maybe even get close to a winning formula. But when the numbers dip or the algorithm feels cold, they stop. They tell themselves it just doesn't work. They walk away never knowing how close they were. Doubt distorts distance. The people who win are the ones who keep digging, not blindly, but with a clear map and the resilience to keep going when they can't yet see the goal. And if you're committed and focused, the systems inside this book will take you far. So if you want to dive deeper, and as a major thank you for subscribing to my channel and watching this video, if you click the link below, you can get a free copy or listen to the audiobook for free by clicking here.